because they have both lost to the same team and kind of beaten the same teams, the power level discrepancy between Hanwha Life and Kingzone can only be scientifically evaluated today.
That's very true. We'll have the first matchup of these guys in 2019. The first best of three will start with the Jace ban. Not something you see very often, but another point you were making before we started when you were taking a look at stats. Lucian, the only 100% consistency in pick and ban, always there, either picked or banned, and continues to be that way here in this game.
Right now, there's a lot of champions I want to point at, and Zoe was the one I was going to get to. It's banned by Kingzone. They're not going to allow it to be potentially first pick, and I think that everyone who's played this in solo queue has looked at patch notes. You get one go on 9.3 without banning Zoe, then you're like, wait, this champion's pretty broken with how much other stuff has been nerfed incrementally over the last couple of patches, and LeBlanc is pretty close behind it. So I was wondering about a Hanwha Life Esports, LeBlanc ban and a Zoe ban mixed in there. Both of them banned means that mid lane might actually herald some of the nerfed champions. Maybe it's time for some Lissandra and some Galio and other things now that the two champions that seems to rule the roost have been taken down a notch. Speaking of which, Bono has been taken down a notch, and let's talk quickly. The reason why is that Kingzone DragonX were able to beat, Hanwha Life Esports were able to beat Genji twice when they ran the Karma strategy because they had the Yorick top, but more importantly, they had an Olaf to win the jungle matchup and stop the overextending. I like the Olaf ban here because it allowed Bono to double down on Karma, basically being ganked whenever she tried to push.
And this is another interesting thing that's coming in here, specifically today. So much more Yasuo priority in the pick bans, as it was picked twice in the first series, lost twice for KT. But Hanwha Life say, we don't care about those, stats. We're going to bring it in here and try to make it win. The Alistar is taken away, so it can't be put into the bottom side, essentially forcing Hanwha Life to go into Yasuo Gragas if they want to run it bot lane.
Exactly. Removes a reliable tool on the knockups, and it's also a Doosan champion. We're not talking about Worlds last year, but usually a Doosan champion.
Yes.
Very reliable pick CC picked up by Kingzone. Buttons to press onto the head of Yasuo and hope he dies swiftly so far. On the side of Kingzone DragonX, Hanwha Life might be backing this up with some AoE wombo. We're going to see the Vladimir be unleashed. It was Tal on the coin Vladimir against Karma, you will remember, in game number 1 of that series when they were scaling next to a Karma. That means if Kingzone want Karma, they will be facing a Vladimir top.
Bono, big smile on his face as well as the Zac gets selected for him into the jungle here. Saw what Tarzan was able to do on that tank jungle, being basically in parity with the Lee Sin. One of those more aggressive ones, as the Victor does get locked in even after the Lissandra. We've been seeing some more Victor mid. Chovy picked it up in the first series, but with the Lissandra on the board, you have to wonder, where is everything going?
Pawn lost on it in game 3 against SKT, going for a pretty greedy Frostmancy kind of build, and didn't really convince, and he didn't have any lane pressure. So wait and see, because the Lissandra is usually the prototypical mid lane champion. Could be bot lane as well, we should mention, in a lot of matchups. So we'll wait and see what the plan is here. Nothing committed to. We know about the jungle pick on the side of Hanwha Live, the support pick on the side of Kingzone, and kind of a lot of things thrown in the air and threatened. And we had a very fun set of drafts to evaluate in our first series, which had a lot of flexes very late into the piece. We also always have to judge how are the waves looking and how are the lanes looking when a Zac is locked in, because there is the potential for Zac to be beasted on in the early game if the lane matchups around him are weak.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how the lanes do make their way onto the Rift this time around. We highlighted the Gragas. The Alistar taken away. The Gragas is banned, so definitely decreases the value of, certain duos that could be put into the bottom side. The Flay from the Thresh, also another knockup, going to be denied. Also just another support that gets banned quite a lot nowadays.
The final ban is here. Kingzone, because it's deft, you always think an 80 carry is going to come out, but he has been very good on non-80 carries in recent memory. His Mordekaiser is something I'm always scared of, but very unlikely to come out in this particular game. No Gallios so far either. Silas makes it very far through this ban phase after being first pick territory for multiple teams in week 4 of the LCK. Excited to watch the LEC later today and see if the Silas priority's gone down after underperforming a couple of times over in Europe. Waiting for the first pick of the second round here. Jungle is, of course, going to show the least amount of information. A couple of Nocturne bans in our first series. Cuz was pretty poor, it was worth noting, against SKT, especially the series went on. His Zac in the final game didn't impress us, and I thought he would just go level 6 versus level 6 jungler. But he's actually going to start invading, and it seems like he wants to put the shoe on the other foot. He felt the pain as a Zac, now he's hunting a Zac in game number 1.
He mentioned previous performances for Cuz. At least he does have the win on the Xin Zhao so far. He's 1-0.
But no one else is playing it. This week, Xin Zhao's had no priority at all. Halo Blade Xin Zhao starting to fall away. Hanwha Life Esports, the thing I noted down is they almost champ for champ played the same comp 2 games in a row. Last time they played, they didn't have to change much. It was Ashe Tom Kench 2 games in a row, and they might just be saying, we're not being forced to change it, we're not really sure what the enemy's doing, so we'll stick with what works. They hover it for a long time, playing with our hearts a little bit. Key, he is of course famous for range supports like the Bard. Not gonna happen today.
He looks very unimpressed with the Tom Kents that he has to play, but you gotta take one for the team, buddy. This is a big one. He's played a lot of Tom Kents too, so he knows what he's doing. 6-2, 8 total games already here in 2019 for Key on Tom Kench. Played around Sangyun, not always a bad idea.
AD carry is just locked in here. It's going to be Xayah as a power pick. So probably going to be pawn on Victor, and Lissandra going top is my first thought. That sounds mismatched given we've seen a lot more of the Lissandra mid lane. Match up with the Vladimir is an outscale one for Vlad. Nothing exciting about that. Wait and see what the final decision is between all the scenarios. And we do have AD carries on both sides. A lot of scaling on the side of Hanwha Life. And Tempt is going to be the one on Yasuo duty most likely, given that he has played it to a victory in the past. On BBQ Oliver's obviously not a lot of game wins, but there was some good moments for Tempt on this Yasuo.
It's very true. Pawn this time around feels obvious that his LeBlanc will be denied. One of the guys that began to bring it in and find a lot of success on that one, but it'll be his first game of Lissandra now for 2019, so excited to see what he can do on this pick. He'll be going up against Tempt on the not Zoe, as this is totally wrong. Don't look at this. This actually doesn't... There's no Zac Gragas bot, guys.
Come on, it's Friday night, Valdez.
Disregard that.
It's Friday night. You know, we're having a bit of fun.
I love to zoom in on the Riot games afterwards.
Yeah.
Like,
Riot broadcast, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, this one looks good. This is normal. This is actually what was drafted here for the side of King Zone.
Let that just sink in, guys, because we can't let you look at the first set. But we'll soon have gameplay to distract from a little snafu there. Here are the players. Soon comes the chance, and then the League of Legends action. Thick and fast.
It's coming at you fast, guys. Game number 1, Hanwha Life Esports up against King Zone begins right now as we hop onto the Rift. Here we go. Game does begin right now as Sangyun going to return to his Ashe. Excited to see this, especially. Has always been one of the hard carries for the side of Hanwha Life. And I saw you pointing at the screen. We got Victor with the Frostmancy build once again coming out here. This time for Rascal.
Frostmancy 0-2 against Hanwha Life this week, but that was karma both games by a struggling Gen G. Tal could still go into Ancient Coin later. When he saw karma, he was 100% certain there would be Frostmancy. With Victor, of course, always a chance he was going to start Corrupting Potion or something like that. Wait and see if the first back is 850 gold, because actually as Vladimir, if you're really good picking up a Nomad's Medallion or into a Frostfang, just because 10% CDR for cheap is what his early build is all about anyway.
Nice little invade here from the side of King Zone. Cuz already getting aggressive with the help of his top laner, will be stealing the blue buff on this side. Of course, they do have information as the Vlad was chased away, so they should know exactly what's going on here on the line.
Theory behind this late invade is about setting up vertical jungling for the Victor to get plenty of overextended auto attack trades in. He doesn't want to CS, he just wants to poke. So because of that, anything that allows Rascal to have the lane state in a preferential state and get that quest earlier is always happy. Of course, they also will know that Zach should be kind of following a pretty predictable path. So far, it's a full clear bot side. It'll get him an early level 3, and you start by allowing the Victor to get the 500 gold from the quest fast, and you double it up with testing Zach's camps as they respawn, and you're pretty happy if you're Kingzone DragonX.
Take a look at the runes here. They were highlighted for the Lissandra in the mid lane. Even up against the Yasuo, doesn't go for the Aftershock, takes Airy. Wants to go for a more harassy style setup up against the Yasuo, not the more survivability, armor and MR, of course, with the Aftershock.
And the harassy style, as you put it, does one thing very well, Valdez. It gets lane priority guaranteed in the mid lane to invade this man, by this man I mean Bono, on the Zac. Anything to hold down Zac is preferential, and this damage, Tempt.
Oh boy, but now he doesn't have Aftershock, and it might just be the solo kill. Tempt is able to take out Lissandra up against Pawn. Easy first blood.
You go too far with the harass you and end up deadsies there. That's not playing towards your Keystone. I like the invade onto the second scuttle. The lane positioning from Pawn left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, definitely, as you put it, big mistake there from the side of Pawn. You have to know your limits, especially up against the Yasuo. Even has the cleanse here. Let's take a look at how it happens.
Let's watch the play and see if Aftershock would have procced. The answer is yes. So he plays and overrates his own tankiness. If you miss the W, then it doesn't matter what Keystone you had, but he hits the W. So actually, I think he didn't play towards his Keystone, and that was the big problem there. If you're going to take the area and push, I understand it. You got double scuttle. But if you die afterwards, that's egg on your face if you're Pawn.
Pawn, definitely one of the more interesting characters of 2019 so far. Came in for Kingzone, looked, I mean, just bad up against Griffin and Sandbox, but then came back and we were saying, wow, okay, slow start for this guy, you know, hard teams. And then he looked, you know, he looked great. He brought out some signature picks, was playing the LeBlanc. We were all, you know, praising him for stuff like that, but then sometimes weird builds come in and plays like this come in. Definitely some inconsistent play from the side of Pawn. We'll have to wait and see if he can sort of fix that as the season comes along.
Definitely someone who you can't take your eyes off. That's always been Pawn as a player. I've talked about it many times, but on most of his teams with Deft, he's been kind of the faux carry, the watch me while Deft farms carry in the mid lane, and probably can't afford to die too many times. Bono's here, but level 3.
Running at them as well, just zoning, I suppose, so we can just hop away on the Zac. As you mentioned, the level 3, that's because he is so far behind. He only got the one single buff on his red side jungle, and he's already a lot of CS behind, 18 behind Cuz on the Xin Zhao, who's doing quite a nice job so far in the jungle.
Nice control ward here means that even though he doesn't have a jungler to play towards the side of, there is plenty of information for Yasuo to dodge away there. Bono was, of course, all the way down in his Krug camp. He's walking up. He's worried about a turret dive from this angle. So he's giving up the rest of his Krug camp and Hanwha roaming up as well.
They're like, all right, we've had enough. Time for Abraham. Let's get 4 members in the mid lane. As no, the point you were making, definitely true. They want to make sure that Tempt is okay. Little rotation after the push on the bottom side. Maybe even trying to get Bono some help here as tries for another scuttle, but sir, you're up against Xin Zhao. That is not your scuttle crit.
But let's watch and see how long this level of pressure on the Zac can continue. He's only got 4 jungle camps so far this game, 4.5 because he couldn't even finish the Krug camp at 6 minutes into the game. So he's very far behind, but we know that Zac kind of needs levels in a Cinderhulk, and he's pretty much ready to go. So because of that, and with Tempt getting a solo kill already, if Tempt gets a fast Phantom Dancer, or we'll see if he goes for Static Shiv, which is definitely a real option now, with the changes in the item rework, could just be that he'll apply the pressure for Zac to fall back, farm a bit later, and it doesn't even matter. Plain sailing from there. No level lead so far for Cuz either, so for now at least, the Zac getting away with kind of a charmed life.
He's feeling okay, as long as he doesn't make any big mistakes or die or anything like that. Lots of farming to the side of Cuz. Should be hitting level 6 here soon. We saw some pings even on the Ocean Drake, which would have been pretty nice, especially for this early game, but gonna forego that for now.
Nomad's Medallion done for the Vladimir, so now if he's harassed off of minions, he can pick up some gold, because remember, you only get potentially gold on minions you don't kill. This is still patch 9.3 with no hotfix, guys. Of course, we might have some European viewers who are getting ready for the LEC later today. This is not available on your patch. The bot lane, Ezreal with Frostmancy support farming, that's possible, but don't go into a solo lane with these items. You'll feel real bad.
Just don't do it. Don't give in to the allure. It doesn't work anymore. As, yeah, just been farming up. Would like to take another look at the gold. Well, as I say that, comes up right away as the Vlad is about 600 ahead already.
Rascal plops down his ultimate. In case you guys are wondering, do note that Rascal also went Summoner Airy. This is something that Kingzone have been doing a lot of this week. 2 games from Pawn already. Hail of Blades Azir was the first one we saw. Basically, they're going for Spell Thieves into Frostfang on champions, but sometimes they're not doubling down with Kleptomancy. That does mean that they're more likely to fall behind in gold in the early game. Probably not going to be seen here because Ancient Coin is picked on the other side, but happy to jump into a hole as we do see the Pulverize.
Yeah, a bit of a knock up there in Abano, who's going real aggressive, gets a double flash away from Tucson and Cuz, and there's the arrow onto Pawn. Has his flash to get in there, but Key, he's getting the stun down into the Devourer. There are 5 members of Hanwha Life here to follow up for that one. They pick up another kill. A nice play from Hanwha Life.
You take the range support away. He doesn't get to play his fiddlesticks, but he gets pretty damn hungry, and they chase for a kill. Pawn goes down a second time, and he even has to make the walk of shame back to mid lane because he died too fast to have his TP ready.
Oh, feels so bad. Missed a huge wave in the mid lane. You guys can see the remnants of that left over as Hanwha Life trying to make a statement here. As what will happen now, though, as Bono, way too low, cannot stay for the Ocean Drake, and that means that Kingzone just come on in and steal away a Drake. Not so bad.
And you might say, but a kill for an objective, a win for Kingzone. On some level, you're not wrong. But consider this point, Valdez. This game, scaling-wise, is Vladimir, Zac, Yasuo top side. You don't even need to look at the other side. That's an outscaled trio if there ever was one. Ashe is on utility duty with the Tahm Kench. Kingzone need a gold lead and more in a game like this. Otherwise, mid to late is just going to be horrendous. And unfortunately, it's more gold to the side of Hanwha Life, and only an Ocean Drake who's scaling won't help in that team fight mismatch.
See, Sangin waits for it. They get the double flash, and then he sends out his arrow as the TP is coming in from Tall. Great team play. And the flash over from Key to help that all happen.
Nice bloodthirsty stuff. Doa approved for sure. Welcome back to cast today, by the way. Monty and Doa doing their thing over in Undersight League. We're here in the LCK, and things are coming together. Tal's going to have 45% CDR with just 2 CDR items.
Yep.
Bot lane farming's happening, and Devour still an ability.
Didn't get removed yet. Still waiting for that moment. But that would remove Tahm Kench from the game, so can't have our Thomas be all alone. He'll still be here as both junglers in the top lane. Bono trying to get the play onto Rascal. Humo play coming in. But there is the stopwatch. Can they get the follow-up? He flashes away, and the TP comes in as well. And Tal is getting so low, does have a flash, uses it, and then immediately dies to red buff. Nice follow-up there from Cuz.
That lust for the kill cost Tal a lot, clearly. Bono very early started disengaging. Tal went too fast and was easily taken down. The extra summoner of the flash adds insult to injury. Nice timing. Couldn't really afford any more bleeding, could Kingzone, given where this game appears to be going. Based on the champ select, they need to push up. They need to get turret plates wherever possible. Start doing the math. 2 in the top, 1 in the mid. So only going to be 3 so far, not enough. We watched the replay. Kingzone have the early priority, but you couldn't tell based on the early kills. This starts off so well, but as the stasis starts, they see Hail of Blades Cuz. He opens with his ultimate, and it actually all comes together for Xin Zhao.
It's the fact that he's sticking around there trying to get the kill. He knows that Rascal has the flash, but you have to run away from the Xin Zhao the second you see him. even if you do have your pool as well. We're going to follow up here as Key is a bit out of position, trying to help him. Here is Temp with the insta-cleanse into the knock-up on a Cuz, and here's Songyun trying to rain down hell onto the rest of them. And Key, he's still alive. He's distracting the Xayah, as meanwhile, double kill goes to Songyun.
That's right, 2 for 1 in the middle of the team fight, but Key caught in translation, trying to make a straight line move from the mid lane. That's the end result of all of these shenanigans. Hanwha Live continue to get more gold, get that scaling brought a little bit earlier. The S word feels like less of a dirty one with the fact that the scaling might come early. We go back to the top side. Tal continues to wave clear. Kingzone still need to be trading up. But in a moment like this, Tempt able to basically instantly cleanse into ult.
Watch the cleanse.
Puts things together. There's the cleanse. It's not instant, not quite Captain Jack. Captain Jack actually on the analyst desk today. They clean up the kill, Tempt gets out, and Songyun in the middle of the fight cleans up.
Nobody really able to zone him away. There was no AD carry on the opposite side, as Thomas was doing a great job just zoning him out for so long. Didn't end up staying alive, as Key did go down, but he did his job. He's got a very fed Ashe now with Blade of the Rune King, finished up 2-0-1. Nice little bounty onto Songyun, one of the key carries here on Hanwha Live.
Xayah, given it's our first Xayah sighting of the week, you might say. Oh, items change, what we building. Deft seems like a big fan of Essence Reaver in general. He went this build on Sivir, he went this build on Kai'Sa. He's going the build on Xayah, and of course Xayah has always kind of built Essence Reaver through multiple metas. I must admit, I'm not a huge fan of Essence Reaver as an item. Pretty low AD. Does have critical strike now, 25% like almost every item, but we're in a meta where turret plates and one item power spikes are so important, and it gives you some AD, some crit. You don't really have the attack speed yet to make much use of it, and then mana return, but no kind of other oomph, right? You don't have extra scaling on your items from an IE. Your 2-item spike gives you 50% crit, but that's really all. I'm not a huge fan because it doesn't provide the power early. Later in builds, definitely I can understand it, but it does mean that in the mid game, where we're, again, still looking on Kingzone to be the aggressor, you're going to have a bit of crit, a bit of AD, eventually some attack speed, but nothing else.
Very true. Going to need to wait for some more items here, but will he get to those items, as they'll at least force the flash away from Deft on the trade of the Abyssal Voyage. Will always take that trade. That means that Deft also is going to go back and probably pick up that Essence Reaver you were talking about. There it is. Got to wait and see what his next item will be. Static Shiv picked up here for the Yasuo as well.
Big fan of this. Thank you that you caught it, because Phantom Dancer, I still see a lot of people auto-building, and unfortunately I played with some Stormrazor rushes as well. Stormrazor rush, Kai'Sa.
Sorry about that, Papa.
It worked really well for her previous to the patch. After the patch, didn't work so well for me as the support. But I love the Shiv, because Shiv IE was an old build for Yasuo for a reason. You do insane burst, you clear waves instantly, and while you don't necessarily have the same survivability, I feel like PD was buffed for AD carries as a defensive option that doesn't drop in the attack speed and crit, but actually nerfed for Yasuo. You guys that weren't aware, previously, when you moved within 550 range, you got the movement speed and the ghost effect. Now you have to hit first, so Yasuo actually has to get an auto or Q range, not just within 500 range, which of course he's closing into anyway, so that's a bit of a nerf. And in general, the percentage stats felt a bit more useful than the shield for a melee champion like Yasuo. So given that, I love the Shiv. It's going to do big damage. Does mean he blows up quickly as well.
It's very true, but he'll be looking to blow some other members up here on the Rift. Speaking of which, Pawn is going to get out of dodge here, starting this game at 0-3, unfortunately. Went for the Merc Treads, just, you know, I suppose the CC and the Vladimir is too much to deal with, but is also moving towards getting all the items in the game, as Pawn generally does. Obviously, Proto Belt and Zonya is going to be the parts for that one, but Hanwha Life moved towards the Rift Herald. Looks like they're just going to take it for free here, as the ref, okay.
Key forgot to bring his AD carry. He actually double tapped R. Why?
It's like going on vacation without your passport. You always need to bring your AD carry. Okay, I mean, the arrow comes in, it doesn't delay anything. Well,
could they have played that any worse in the bot lane? Probably not.
So. I think that's just about every mistake he could have made. Just overall, like, Not the best highlight there for Hanwha, but at least they were able to do a little bit of damage in the mid lane with the Rift Herald.
Remember, Songyun and Key are the longest standing duo lane in the LCK. You wouldn't know it from the previous play. I think Key just really wanted to play Fiddlesticks and didn't get to.
He's angry.
Yeah.
At Songyun's
Oh,
like, no.
there's a ward here to auto attack.
Yeah, nice little one there. Hemoplate comes down. Rascal's still going to go for the flash, but the empowered Q might be able to do it. There it is. The pool with the E picks up a pretty easy kill. Nice job and gank from the side of Bond.
Rascal probably didn't have enough time to notice, but the moment the Phase Rush proc, there's no chance he gets away. He's going to trade flashes at best. I think we're too early in the game for trading flashes with the Vladimir to be that worth it, given that now Victor can't enter lane into him in a long lane. We're going to watch the replay. The ward showed up, and that meant the Rascal was done. The fact that he had the extra ward to chase an auto here is how Bono has the CC that allows Tal to get into range.
Pulls him back, a deceptive amount of CC, as you're mentioning, and Vlad can be pretty good at diving in situations like that, 1v1. Gets it done as he shows himself on a control ward. Zach was just going for a swim in the Rift Herald pit. He didn't really have to interrupt him, but Bono will be okay to pick up his 4th assist of the game.
So a little teaching point, while probably no action will happen, is around the scaling thing. Because I just said, yeah, I see Vlad, Zach, and Yasuo. I like it in team fights. And I think a lot of people on a base level, if you know what their abilities do and the synergies there, you're like, aha, I see it too. Bob Smithy, I like them in the late game. The other reason why this game in the late game is really difficult for Kingzone is that consider the moment that the wards get a little bit more important, i.e. the outer turrets go down and vision is a bit more patchy. If you can't see Zach and he has engage range onto Kingzone, you have so many mid-range champions that can get very easily shut down by Elastic Slingshot into what that heralds, which in this game is, for example, the Yasuo ultimate. Here he comes.
Yep, well, okay, that's going to be a pretty easy kill as once again Rascal is going to pay for it in the top side.
Thank you, Hanwha Life. I asked you to roll the tape. You showed it. That's what you bring with the Zac. You bring Yasuo engage. You bring a potential Vladimir flank. If you ever lose eyes on Zac or Vlad, you die in the late game because of what they provide AoE wombo-wise. So it's not just about the champions on Hanwha Life in terms of power level and a 5v5. It's the game quickly becomes Victor CSing under his inner turret. Can I walk up to the next minion wave? I don't know where Zac is. Can't do it. Lissandra, the same story. Can't do it. Xayah getting ready to press R at every moment. There's so much threat on the side of Hanwha Life, and they've got the gold to make it stick.
Yeah. It definitely feels like Zac Company stock is going up, up, up. It's time to buy, as a lot of teams are buying into this kind of Zac jungle. He gets a little bit behind up against some of those aggressive junglers, but as long as he can keep up, once you hit the mid-game, there's just so much engaged potential that you really cannot ignore.
But it sounds like a crypto thing for me, because we've seen so many Zacs become dead, dead, dead when their early game doesn't go the way of their team. So I think the crash is imminent. We might not see it in this game, but the longer a Zac
Is it a Zac bubble now?
I think it is a Zac bubble, and I think Griffin are going to burst it.
All right, well, you can record that one. We'll see if that prediction comes true. As, well, 3 Ocean Drakes in this one. Hasn't been the most entertaining for the Drakes. At least the next one will be the Infernal. Definitely a very important one for both of these teams, as they can both use that damage.
Oh, look at this. Actually going to go for a bit of an insurance second choice. We saw Bloodthirst a second in our first series, seeing the old Sterix build from Tempt he would have built last year. Watching the replay here. Turns out Devour, pretty cool ability. 4 people were counted by it.
A try at a dive, but they forgot about Thomas. Tom Kench still in the game. He did not disappear after the early game.
Try as you might, you just can't keep the Kench benched, it turns out. 2 items now on the Xayah. Built this through many metas, and again, if Infinity Edge is done, and you really mess up your wombo, there is a team fight that Deft can carry, but he doesn't have extra shields. He only has a couple of extra wards from the now completed Spell Thieves on the Victor. And will Victor ever get bold enough to put these wards anywhere near where Zac may be engaging from?
Well, Cuz did have that aggressive early game, was able to set up the vertical jungling, was able to take 3 of the first Scuttle Crabs and certainly gain a bit of a lead. But as it stands now, Bono's a level ahead of him and feeling pretty good about where he's going. Looking at the Warmogs next here for Zach, as that's, I suppose, a bit of a power spike, you could call it, for the Zach. He is able to hit that 3,000 health, get the passive, and become super tanky, and have a fun time bouncing around and engaging all over the place with all of those tools that Hanwha Life have in their comp, as you were mentioning before.
I believe you need level 12 Warmog, Cinderhawk, and also the rune in the bottom
Scaling
of the
health,
resolve tree, the scaling health. If you don't have the scaling health, you're like less than a Kindle gem away, and you're feeling really frustrated.
Like that, actually.
Exactly. That's why we're teaching, because it looks so easy, right? Just build these items and go resolve tree. We've been doing that for a while, but don't forget the scaling health, otherwise you look very simple.
Yeah, you know, I was playing the Zac and Caster, by the way. I forgot to take the scaling health. Had to buy 2 extra ruby crystals just to get the passive. Felt pretty bad. I think we ended up losing that game. As, you know.
That doesn't sound like one of our games.
In Wood 5, I mean, that's basically what happens every game, so. Feels pretty bad, man. Maybe next time I'll remember the scaling health.
Roscoe has gone for a atypical build. He's rushed Rylai's. In this game, there's definitely been metas where Victor went Rylai's, and the extra health can sometimes be helpful, but can I ask a question, Valdez? I don't know what Rylai's does against the team comp he's against, because it's phase rush from Vlad, so he ignores it.
Yeah.
It's Zach, so yep. And it's also Yasuo, and I think if you're trying to slow down Yasuo as he's careening through a minion wave to get to you, Rylai's ain't going to be enough.
It's not going to do much. I mean, at least you get a bit of health, right? It helps against Tom Kent, maybe. Not 100% sure, but maybe just a bit more damage would have been nice. Either way, things looking on course for Hanwha Life to be ahead in this game, at least. What do you feel like Kingzone have to do to try to come back in this one?
I think it has to be a vision play. They have some pick power on their side. They have pick CC on every champion. Yes, we'll include the W from Victor, but everyone else, yes. Plenty of reliable pick CC. It's pick into an objective here. They can actually kite away from Baron and look for a pick very easily, but they don't have the control of the river to do so. Some way to get deep vision onto a camp that Zach is on and getting a pick while he's not there strikes me as the best way in, but picks onto a team with a Tom Kench with QSS, tricky. I think Hanwha Life getting too bold. Maybe Zach and Vladimir ignoring that the rest of the team will take longer to rotate. Kind of has to happen, so you definitely feel like it's low effectiveness, and Kingzone losing the early mid-game against a scaling comp is a big problem, but we are not a faultless region anymore. There's been plenty of mistakes in the LCK in 2019, and
too many.
You're definitely looking for one if you're Kingzone DragonX.
It's going to be the name of the game. Yasuo still looking for his first win here in the LCK. He's 0-3 so far. A couple of losses from KT, but how about this? No Tom Kent on their side. They're really looking for death, but good timing on the ultimate to get away from that one. Bunch of damage onto Tusin, but no follow-up as in goes Xin Zhao. They're onto Songyun. They want to follow up onto Tal here, but not quite able to. Pawn forced to ultimate himself. At least they saved the Xayah and end up actually going even in the fight.
Tal comes in late with Death Cap Vladimir, but the rest of the team is disengaging, so there's no value out of the Hemo Plague at all. It's a pretty big cooldown to be down here. In terms of cooldowns, every ult used by Kingzone, they're trying to sneak an Infernal Drake, and it has to be a face check from Bono to stop
against
it.
An Ashe. Who's going to throw in 2 Hawk shots, by the way. Bono, though, going to dreadfully miss that slingshot as he's going to be down to the passive. They're trying to take him out here, and they will, actually, down to the last second. Tal trying to zone the entire team by himself on the Vladimir. Able to do that to some effect as Hanwha Life now are going to start up the Inferno.
They don't have a smite, but they have a dream. They want this Inferno to put that Deathcap Vladimir over the edge. They're going to get it anyway. We're going to take that trade overall. The Bloodbloods being down is not ideal, but there's still so much power. Tempt, I believe, was on a back timing because he rolled in late at full health. That's why Kingzone were able to actually get a pick. But watch the replay of how it all started, because you can't ask for more than threading an arrow onto death. From here, the chase continued. No threat onto death. Bono a couple of times over, not able to actually register any of his CC abilities, and that's why eventually he went down. This could have been so much worse if Tal was in position to fully use the Hemo Plague on an engagement. Ends up being largely for disengage, and that's why eventually Kingzone are kind of gifted a pick by Bono.
They are, but eventually we're going to see once again the follow-up of Bono trying to get on top of Deft and Tucson, it looks like, but misses, goes wide, he goes down.
Not the best moment, and like we mentioned, Tempt only gets back from his recall timing now. It was a TP back in from Sungyun. They still get the Infernal, and they have huge Infernal value. On even just 3 members, it's Vladimir, Yasuo, and Ashe, so you are feeling great about it. The Yasuo is the closest to a game ender, but I guess we should mention the Sungyun is too. The double IE power spike, we're very much knocking on heaven's door if you're a Hanwha Life Esports fan.
Well, you mentioned it. The first one comes in for the Ashe. Picked up right away as Tempt, looking for that as well eventually. And you get it there on the side of Deft as well. So both the AD carries are able to pick it up, i.e. a pretty nice third or second item, I suppose, on some AD carries nowadays.
Eyes on Bono, if you're a Kingzone fan. What you're hoping for is that he overrates his tankiness, dives in, and dies instantly. It could definitely happen. He has no armor in the build.
Well, he gets the knock-up here on a Cuz, who does have a stopwatch, but look at the rest of the team just going to let him go down as he is totally caught out. Now Pawn going to be spotted on a ward, but is okay. Rascal looking to trade back a bit of damage, but they already lost their jungler. So they're not obviously going to be able to kill Tal here on the backside.
They used everything on it, though. They even used Hemo Plague just to get that kill, so they have nothing. They are actually weaker than they appear right now. Ultimate here, last breath, about 20 seconds before it's back off cooldown. That's why Kingzone actually feel relatively empowered to step up.
Yeah, like the idea. I like also how Bono, he feels very tanky. We're talking about overestimating it, but he just comes in here, puts down the ward, sees Cuz, and they're ready to go right away.
He also knew that the Sandra was not able to be involved here. What we were looking for from Kingzone's side is that the health and magic resist stacking Bono with no passive just gets 4-shot by Isaiah with some crits coming, and that could have happened, but instead target selection is good, and more importantly, it's a time when Lissandra's not there, so the outnumbering was guaranteed.
These carries for the side of Hanwha Life now insanely strong. You got Yasuo, 3 items with an IE. Ashe, 3 items and a half, I suppose you could say, with Stopwatch and an Null Magic Mantle, with that IE as well. Vladimir, we already talked about him. He's got that sweet hat, and he's probably working towards his Zhonya's here. Nice little timing here for Hanwha to start up the Baron, and they're going to do that right now. Have the extra damage from the Infernal, and even though there is vision now from the side of Kingzone,
Will be too late.
TP is coming in. It feels too late. The
Got
arrow
him.
hits the jungler, snipes him right next to the AD carry, as easy as you like. And by the way, here's the sack. They're going to try to take out Cuz as well on the backside. Deft, though, trying to do that damage from the back, and Bono is going to go down. Has that ultimate, tries to flash to get the feathers in, but not quite able to do it. Meanwhile, on the backside, it looks like Rascal desperately trying to take out Tal, but he cannot do it as all of Kingzone are just falling one by one. It's only Tucson left available. Tal going 1v2, 1v3 on the bottom side of this fight as Hanwha Life sweep them right now.
Ultra messy from Hanwha. They don't actually min-max. They don't get all their wombo in, but doesn't matter, Valdez. They have so much scaling on their side that the Baron and that tipping over the edge that we hypothesized came true. Can they end it right now? Death timer, 25 seconds on Deft. I think you just end the game.
It's only the cow, the sad one here, Tucson, gonna try to knock some people up and knock them back, but they're just gonna take a free kill alongside of the Nexus. It's too long of death timers. Down goes the kill, and down will go the Nexus. Hanwha Life, 1-0.
Hanwha Life Esports, our favorites for the night, and pretty much the consensus thought. And what we thought would be 60-40. Get away with murder a little bit. They're scaling pretty extensive, but they always traded up in the early game. And every time I see a Zach comp trade up, I think that there's been some pretty heavy mistakes. And you just can't make them in a meta like this. Teams that draw for the early game are supposed to pay it off with multiple turret plates. and we just weren't seeing that sort of a benefit. Some nice early counter jungling meant that the Zac was a bit anemic. It was, what, 4.5 camps at 7-8 minutes into the game, but after that, pretty plain sailing for Bono and friends, and a well-deserving victory for Hanwha Life Esports.
Yeah, looked especially good after the 30 minutes mark after they scaled on up. Hanwha pretty one-sided in that one as the game came along. We're able to just take an Infernal away and then take a Baron away right under their noses. Didn't quite have the vision to see it coming, and then the team fight was just the bonus.
It's pretty messy, right? Another one-man ult from Tal onto the Victor, and the Victor had no items, so he's definitely much less team fight relevant than what we were seeing on the top side of the map. And Def plays as good as he can, but it's a gold lead, a scaling lead, and eventually Def says, wait, if I don't come down and get some kills, we're going to lose the game from a numbers disadvantage anyway. Tries to make the super play, no super plays to be made, and we get to watch Tal very slowly contend with Rascal and 2, so you might say 2 for 1, but Vlad at this point in the game is probably worth 3 members of King Zone, and that's an exchange rate that was too much to deal with.
I like the 2 halves to the fight. After this one, you got to see the Yasuo triple kill, and then you got to see him die to Baron buffed minions eventually, as Tal slowly was able to tip the 2 of them away. So, nice little game there from Hanwha Life. They were able to scale up quite easily. Only the Zac was under pressure, and things looked pretty clean from them.
Third Frostfang top laner, 0 victories. I think you got to get some lane pride. I want to see a Jace next game from Rascal, something a bit more lane focused, because I think that Hanwha Life are just enjoying the 1-week meta and saying, hey, some free wins.
I mean, lots of damage there from the Victor, but just none of it really mattered. I'm sure a lot of that was onto the front line, maybe a Tom Kench, a Vladimir that just soaked up all the health that he was losing. Didn't end up mattering, even though he was doing a nice amount of damage with the harassing. And you also saw Deft was trying his best to carry on the Xayah. That last fight was pretty close, like he was trying to fight his best with the Lissandra ahead of him, but not quite able to carry by himself.
Deft was doing his job, but no Hex Drinker, no chance. Got these Vladimir team fights. He definitely wants a different approach from his team in game number 2.
Yeah, he definitely will. So Hanwha Life, we were predicting 2-1 from them, but game number 1 very clean here, at least once the game got along. Can Kingzone step it up? Can Pawn have a better game alongside Deft and try to carry it? It's what we were expecting. But we'll have to wait and see, guys, as we're going to be moving to a quick commercial break before we do get into game number 2.